We wholeheartedly believe housing is a human right. I encourage everyone to recognize how important your home, your housing, your security is to you and your family, and realize it's equally important to your neighbors.
Diamond Jones is a mother of 3. So at the end of June 2022, there was a shooting on her block, and her family contacted the police to report the shooting.
The next day, Diamond learned that their address had been posted on certain social media sites. They interpreted that as a threat and called the police again.
Tragically, 2 days later, these threats became real, and Diamond's home was shot up, including her children's bedroom while they were sleeping. It was an incredibly traumatizing experience.
Diamond and her family had called the police 3 times. The first to report a shooting that had taken place on the street. The second was to report threats that they had received. And the third is after their house had actually been shot up. 8 days after the shooting, Diamond returns home from work, and out of nowhere, she sees a notice of eviction.
And the notice referenced a violation of Richton Park's crime-free housing ordinance. She immediately called her landlord to get more information, and the landlord basically said, my hands are tied. At the police department, they told her she would have to talk to the village, and the village, they told her she would have to talk to the police department.
It was truly a revolving door of not getting anywhere.
These ordinances are local laws that empower municipalities to penalize landlords and tenants when a tenant has some form of contact with law enforcement. If the landlord fails to comply, they will face steep fines and the potential loss of their rental license. These ordinances raise all kinds of civil rights concerns. The tenant often has no due process protections and no opportunity to raise any kind of defense. The loss of her family home had a profound impact on Diamond and her children. Diamond had been living in Richton Park for 4 years. She loved her home. She loved having a fenced-in backyard, and she described standing in her kitchen and looking out the window and watching her kids play in the yard. To lose it so abruptly was very difficult for Diamond and very disorienting for her children. The move also caused a great deal of financial strain. She struggled to find a place to live, and she truly feared her family would become homeless. With our amazing co-counsel, Winston and Strawn, we were able to bring a lawsuit on behalf of Diamond, challenging the constitutionality of Richton Park's crime-free housing ordinance and seeking justice for Diamond and her family.
The examples from Diamond's case are clear. It was a lack of First Amendment protections with respect to penalizing someone for calling the police, and lack of due process because there's essentially no notice and no opportunity for someone to challenge this.
We sought damages on behalf of Diamond for what she experienced, and we also asked the court for a declaration that the crime-free housing ordinance was unconstitutional. In response to our lawsuit, the Village of Richton Park almost immediately amended their ordinance to add robust due process protections for tenants and landlords, and they removed the provision that had led to the enforcement action against Diamond.
Chicago Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights has been one of the few organizations really willing to take a chance and to use the law, leverage the law, to stand up for folks experiencing this form of discrimination.
About a year later, we settled Diamond's claims for $250,000 in damages, including attorney's fees.
While everybody wants to be free and protected against crime, housing law is in a very inappropriate place.
These policies have been studied, and the research shows that they do not make communities safer. We're part of a coalition of organizations, service providers, advocates, and experts on this issue that are working to introduce and pass legislation that would regulate the use of crime-free housing policies and ensure that people like Diamond have some protections. We're facing unprecedented challenges in our work: loss of funding, greater uncertainty, an undermining of basic civil rights. What we need now is more resources, more stability, more funding, more pro bono support.
I also would highly encourage other lawyers to look for opportunities to work with CLC. At least in my experience, it was a great opportunity to make a difference in an individual's life.
We each have different skills that are critical to truly being able to enforce and advance fair housing rights. I encourage everyone to lend the skills they have, open your wallet, and make a donation.